Hey guys, Steve here. Today I got a look at the Tier 6 British cruiser Fiji. Fraser on the screen here, he's been holding down the fort for me, doing a good job. I'm happy with that build. Potentially it could be used in Belfast. I know a lot of you guys got Tenant on there for the survivability. That's definitely helpful as well. These British cruisers are quite fragile. And I've been getting pretty good reports from the Tenant users on their AP pen. I just went the full AP penetration build on mine, just trying to maximize that output. Basically, what the deal is on these the British cruisers. Tier 4, you started with 4 turrets, 1 gun each. Tier 5, Leander, you go up to 4 turrets, 2 guns each, so that's essentially doubling the potential damage output that those guns, at least on paper, are able to provide. And then this gun, you're adding another gun per turret, 3 guns each, so that's another 50% increase going into the Fiji. So this thing is capable of dealing damage. I've done, I don't know, maybe 10 games, played 8 or 10 games on this thing. This is my highest damage so far. It ends up being in the 140s. I've had a couple in the 130s. So this ship is able to carry games for sure in terms of damage output. If you can stay alive and continue to do that damage, be in position to do that damage throughout the game. Very strong ship. I've been very impressed with it. It's not even fully upgraded yet. I still got one more mod to put on the Torp enhancement mod. So these have been kind of the golden days of low destroyer counts. I know a lot of people should be pleased about that. I assume it's mostly because people are grinding new lines. But here we only have 2 destroyers. They have 3. So we actually don't have anyone to spot here. So if you saw, I swung up there, kind of did a wide angle, and then proceeded to get behind this island once it got hot. That was trying to present these guys that are with me some spotting opportunities so that they had targets to shoot. Mainly what I'm trying to do is capture their attention so they don't get bored and just kind of wander off into the center of the map, leave me over here. This ship cannot handle battleships pushing into it very well on its own. The primary, sustainability or defensive method of this thing is using that smoke. To be able to use the smoke, you need to have people spotting for you. Here, though, we have nobody that has a line of sight on us, so we're just able to take these shots. Long-range shots on battleships. I'm not going to get massive damage a lot of times. You can see, we've scored some shots. We're just going to trying to whittle these ships down a little bit, provide some support. We do have the Fiji over here, though. I believe that's that cruiser. And I'm keeping an eye on him. Once he gets into position, we want to try and damage him and eliminate him if possible. Now, this part of the reason I picked this game is it's a good look at Fault Line. Fault Line, I think, is the most misplayed map currently in the game. I've done a video on it. I think it's in my miscellaneous playlist. If you haven't seen that one, I would recommend checking it out. And this is kind of an illustration of the principles that we talked about in that video. The North spawn can push into our base quicker and more efficiently than we can push into theirs. So if you spawn over here, I like playing on this west side. It's a fun position, but you do have to keep an eye on the base for pretty much the entire game. And you have to plan ahead and just assume you're going to go back and defend your base, because usually it's going to be required. And you can see early on, despite not having the best available shots, kind of blind fire shots over islands, we're still able to rack up 20,000 damage and kind of harassment damage. Now that those ships are kind of getting pushed off, or they appear to be getting pushed off, I was going to move in, try and catch this Fiji coming around that left corner and broadside him. But the Gneiss now kind of slows down, and he presents a threat to me. If I push forward towards that Fiji now, I then present the broadside of the Gneiss now. That could be game over very quickly. Fiji's doing a pretty good job kind of slowing us down over here. That's essentially what this North spawn's trying to do. In my opinion, at least, that's what they should be trying to do, is slow us down while the strong North push on the eastern side of the map has time to develop and push forward. So these guys are actually, this Fiji in particular is playing this pretty well. But I am able to catch him here, get some pretty good damage. He's at about a 45-degree angle, so we're trying to aim up a little bit higher. We don't want to be bouncing a lot of shells off the sides of the ships. Fiji's not a heavily armored ship, so we can have a little bit more success hitting that side of the hull than a lot of different cruisers. But battleships, continue to aim at the superstructure. You kind of want to treat these AP shells like they're HE shells in terms of where you're trying to shoot the ships. The difference is you're not starting fires, but you have the availability of citadel shots against cruisers. That's essentially how I'm viewing these shells conceptually, and I think that's a pretty good framework to work from. Just kind of try and hit those weak structures, superstructures on battleships. Depending on the angle of those cruisers, you want to aim up or down. If they give you a flat broadside, you aim at the waterline, punch them in the gut. You could potentially do a lot of damage. I think on the stream on Saturday in the Leander, we basically one shot a Myoko. We had like 10 health off of an opening salvo in that game. So these cruisers against other cruisers, the good characteristics of the shells, they're kind of set up for killing cruisers. You know, short fuses, detonate very easily. And this Fiji here, we're going to try and finish him off. He's slowing down, trying to smoke up, but this is kind of my main goal over here, is to get this ship out of here. And then we're going to proceed to deal with this, I believe it's a Ghanaians now. And here we're going to slow down. The ship takes a little bit to slow down, so we want to slow down early, deploy the smoke, and then we're going to start pummeling this guy. We get the torps going in, and you can see 6,000. We're going to get 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. We're shooting that superstructure, the raised area above the ship. That's where we're getting these juicy shots on these guys. And this is withering. Every 7.5 seconds, or whatever the reload is, we're getting this huge damage. That's the equivalent of battleship output on salvos that are hitting citadels. So this is capable of massive amounts of damage, and we're able to kill that ship very efficiently. So now we've cleared the side. We've killed 2 ships. We've driven one off that's gone through their base. And now the thinking needs to be, alright, what's the situation on the base? We need to be looking to turn around and get to the base. They actually do have the destroyer pushing in there quite aggressively. You can see the problem with this side here is we have these 2 lumbering battleships. And just keep an eye on their position. I'm not trying to harp on those 2 guys, but keep an eye on the position through the rest of the game. That Atlanta's pissing me off, by the way. In Atlanta that close to the half of their destroyers, and he's sailing away from it, unacceptable. But the battleships on my wing, they need to be getting back in a position as quick as possible. But based on where they are and how they're moving, it's going to take them minutes to become relevant again. Now, here's a good illustration of why controlling the central lake area is really important. Why I'm shooting at the Scharnhorst, I zoomed in, I checked his guns. He's distracted with trying to kill that Atlanta, so I thought I could harass him, get a little bit of damage, help that Atlanta a little bit. As soon as if he decides to shoot at me, I'm going to let these guns go silent. We're going to disappear and proceed toward the base. They were able to kill that destroyer that pushed in, though, so that kind of alters my plan. But fault line, the area to control is the central lake area. I call it this little ring in the center. You want to clear your wing if you spawn on that side, and then whoever controls the center controls the ability to move back to the base. And moving back to the base is the winning play on this map. Not pushing forward, especially not on the southwest spawn, because you only have 3 ships. You got to go through... you only have 3 ships. You potentially, most games, you'll get support that comes over there. So it becomes a strong side, but it takes a lot longer to develop than their strong side, which they spawn with. Again, that's gone into more depth on that fault line video, which I think is a pretty good video in my own opinion. Ghanaians now coming back, though. We're trying to get these torps off. I assume he's going to cut hard because this guy shot at me. He hit me pretty hard. He does get one salvo off there. We turn away, attempting to dodge. But my thinking was, because he was kind of focused on me mentally, I thought he'd turn hard into that gap and we could potentially hit him with those torps. He continues on, though, pushing towards those battleships. And we're just going to continue to try and deal some damage here as much as possible. This is kind of a dangerous position, though. We don't have smoke available, so no way to really defend ourselves for, looks like, about another minute here. So we're going to try and allow these battleships to take center stage. Hopefully they'll take any brunt of the onslaught. And then we're just going to continue to rain these shells down. And then here, we only get the front 2 guns off. That's fine. We turn in. You're not going to be able to angle against these battleship guns that well in the ship, but if you turn in or you turn away, ships that have wide spreads on their shots, most battleships, the incoming shells are going to be spread out over an area. And if you're pointed directly at them, you're only going to have 1 or 2 of those shells kind of directly facing your ship. So think about it. How much surface area am I presenting? If you're broadside, those wide, big dispersion battleship shots, or the less precise battleship shots, I should say. They spread out more. You got more surface area. They're going to hit you more. You angle in, they're going to hit you less. This is a little bit of a wild sequence here in the Gneisenau. Smoke coming up, so we're going to attempt the same play roughly that we did on the previous Gneisenau. Get the guns going and then hopefully launch a torp salvo. Smoke, you do have the smoke fire penalty. I don't know this ship's smoke fire penalty off the top of my head yet. I think it's roughly about 5 cam, so even smoking up when we shoot, we're not going to have a lot of success. Here we're going to aim up in that superstructure. You'll see how high we aimed up on that shot. We want to avoid those guns. We're not going to damage the guns. The guns are the most heavily armored parts of the ship. He dodges the first torp salvo, and we're going to turn hard and get access to that last one. Now watch how that ship, once we get that torp indicator up, you can kind of keep an eye on that ship. You see he's committed to a turn there, so we're going to lead that indicator further than it was pointing because we are under the assumption he's going to continue to turn. He kind of realizes that we're trying to torp him there, and we're able to blow him out of the water. So that ship, the ship is maneuverable enough that you can pull that move off pretty quickly. The torp firing angles are pretty generous, so flipping around like a fish, anytime you see a cruiser doing that has torpedo capabilities, that's usually what they're attempting to do, and that's a good illustration of that play there. So now we only have 2 ships left. They have 3. We don't know where the destroyer is. Where their destroyer is determines who's going to win the game. And those torps, I guess, probably should indicate that that's the destroyer there. I thought they might have been the Gneisenau's when I was playing it, but it was kind of getting overloaded with the pressure of the situation. Initially, I was trying to get the New Mexico to go towards their base, or our base, and defend it. But looking at the time, looking at the speed of that ship, not going to be a good play. So once I got a minute to adjust it, I'm going to tell him, get on the base. If we can get pressure on their base, if he has, the possibility of killing that Queen Elizabeth, I think is the other battleship, and the destroyers down here, then we might have a chance. Basically, I can go down south. I got the speed, I got the range to get down there quick enough. I can go reset the Scharnhorst over here. If this guy's sitting on the base, maybe we have a shot at winning. It's not looking very good. The odds are very long at this point. Fortunately, our team kind of crumbled around us. But that's the thinking, and this is the execution. Now, I say where the destroyer is kind of determines the match, is because I can go down there and reset that Scharnhorst, and as long as I can stay alive, I can prevent him from capping. The destroyer can do the same thing for our guy. Number one, he can go anywhere around their base, spot that ship. The Queen Elizabeth can take shots. They can reset that way. If the Queen Elizabeth somehow died or went south, the destroyer can do it just as well. He can wait till this battle, the New Mexico or whatever it is, gets a lot of points accumulated in terms of capture points, then to shoot him with 1 or 2 salvos very quickly, and then reset the base. And it'll come down to points. Neither team can capture a base as long as we have 1 ship from each team resetting the person trying to capture it. So this game, if we had 5 more minutes, maybe it could have come to a natural conclusion. But now it's 1v3. There's no way I can win. I can't readily defeat battleships. Basically, you've seen in this game how these British cruisers quickly kill battleships is through torps and gun combo. It's not capable of really 1v1ing battleships very quickly. You're going to get more sustained damage over time with these shells than you are going to get kind of devastating strikes. Now, most cruisers can't quickly eliminate battleships, but they can burn them down over time. So that's kind of a constant feature of these cruisers. So with that in mind, I was hoping the Scharnhorst was going to pop around this corner. We would have been able to torp him pretty quickly. But he does a good play. He kind of turns away from me. And that he's just trying to get away from my torpedo range. And that's the correct play there. I think the enemy team played pretty well here, which is why I wanted to highlight this, or one of the reasons. Again, we turned in there and you saw only 1 shell hit us, where had we been perfectly broadside, 4 or 5 shells would have been coming in towards us. So another good example. Yeah, the shell that hit us is going to penetrate, it's going to do damage, but that's another way to minimize the incoming damage by angling. Angling, again, in this instance, isn't relying on the armor, but just the fact that battleships dispersion, especially German battleships, is going to be kind of wide-ranging. So Queen Elizabeth, we are undetected here. We do have a torp range. If you didn't notice, you can rewind it briefly, but at the top of that white aim indicator, it said like 47 seconds. We only had 45 seconds left in the game, and the 47 seconds is time to target. So there's no point in launching those torps. We get blasted anyways. So that's the end of that one. That's going to do it for that video, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Questions, comments, let me know how these British cruisers are treating you. Personally, I'm loving them. I think they're very strong. And we'll see y'all later. All right, peace.